Fazbear Entertainment Storage, a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game that serves to fill in the gaps and tell the story of what exactly happened between Five Nights 2 and Five Nights 3. Because if you remember, there's a pretty big, solid chunk of time between these two games. The game takes place in an old storage facility that houses what's left of the toy animatronics, as well as a few extra special guests, but we'll get into that later. Now, this game provides the answer to what, in my opinion, is a pretty good question. What happened to the toy animatronics? I mean, the only real update we ever got was that their dismembered limbs were thrown into a box and used as a prop for a cheap haunted house. Well, good news in case you were curious about this very specific question. Now, the original version of this game came out 7 years ago, and since then it has gotten a full remake. And comparing these two by the screenshots alone, it's just night and day. The game starts out with a phone call from Henry. Yes, you heard me right, the Henry Emily. Right off the bat, Henry thanks the player for being able to fill this job on very short notice, following which he states that these are pre-recorded messages we will be receiving nightly until we get our bearings. He goes on to explain that we are currently sat inside of an old storage facility that holds relics from a once popular children's pizzeria chain, and that the remaining locations have been closed for quite some time now. One thing I do find funny about this is that Henry goes on to say that this job won't be simple because of, quote, "This building houses several decommissioned animatronic animals that want to entertain children." Oh, well, f me, when you put it like that, Henry, I will not take this position lightly. You're telling me that those decommissioned animatronic animals used to entertain children? Henry, I see why you pulled out all the stops now. Anyways, Henry says that the toys got scrapped due to malfunctions, which is pretty in line with where we left off in FNAF 2. The toys have been sat here for a while, mostly gathering dust. However, Henry believes that someone is breaking in and tampering with the decommissioned animatronics. I wonder who that could be. Due to the fact that these characters were designed to roam around the building and entertain guests, if their AI were tampered with, then it wouldn't be hard to turn them malicious, much like we see in Five Nights 2. Looking around, you have Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and Toy Freddy sitting in a back room. They look like they have had a gnarly night out, I guess. Then you have Mangle chilling out at a weird camera angle. It's like whoever installed the camera systems couldn't be bothered with that one and just left it on the ground. And that's it for animatronics. For now, there will be more. Moving on to the office, you have your typical fan and a cute little Bonnie figure, which is the obligatory nose boop for this game. On your left, you have an air vent and a big doorway over on the right-hand side. There is a big overhead vent with a big red button that closes it, which I don't know how you're meant to reach the button to press it. What, do you throw a stick at it? Moving on. The tools provided to you to aid in your survival are as followed. The iconic Freddy Fazbear mask, which is pretty self-explanatory. Put it on, animatronics get confused, and leave. It's essentially just peekaboo with a lot more rah! Scream in your face if they catch you. A camera, which I feel is also pretty self-explanatory. And then there's the FazStat panel version 0.10. The FazStat panel version 0.1.0 displays details about the building's power, temperature, and the fan status. Oh yeah, this building has 3 big fans in the air vents that are needed to keep the building's temperature down. Because for some reason, those 3 fans in the air vents are the only reason why Henry isn't giving his Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator speech. If you allow for all 3 fans to become damaged, or have something get stuck in them, then you'll be burnt to a crisp, apparently. Moving on. Now, let's talk about the characters active on night 1. Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica are fairly simple to deal with. Toy Bonnie, much like in Five Nights 2, will show up in the left vent. You shine your flashlight at him and then put on the mask. For some reason, he doesn't really feel like attacking until you put the mask on, unlike in FNAF 2, where he just goes for it whenever. Not saying he won't kill you if left unattended, I just thought it was funny. Toy Chica, with a neck much like Raging Bolt, comes through the overhead vent, and she can sit there for a while. To scare her off, press the button, and before you open it, wait until you hear her shuffling around in the vents again, indicating her departure. And that's it for night 1. Pretty simple and easy. They both only showed up a couple times each, but then again, it's literally the introduction night. Night 2 starts with Henry giving us a further explanation about how the power works, stating that if the power were to go out, then you wouldn't be left defenseless. Your flashlight, mask, obviously, and camera tablet are all still functional. Although you can't actually see any of the cameras, it's just static, so I don't know how useful that would be. I still think this is pretty cool. It's nice to be able to put up a fight still, even without your power. However, no power means no cooling fans, which means you will eventually die to your office heating up rapidly. And along with the inability to seal the vents if they don't fall for the mask trick, then you're fucked. But hey, don't piss yourself, I'm just the messenger. Henry goes on to explain that due to the animatronics being actively tampered with, it is likely our job will increase in difficulty as the week continues. Now, as you can probably guess by now, Toy Freddy is the next in line to be active tonight. I'm sure everyone is happy about that, right? Stupid plastic shithead. Toy Freddy clumsily dawdles over, making sure not to look at anyone due to the fact that since everyone feels an immense, burning carnal desire to kick his stupid fucking plastic head in, he will get assaulted on sight. That's probably why he looks so run down in this game, not due to being abandoned and scrapped, but because everyone wanted a turn at kicking this stupid, disgusting excuse for a children's entertainer. I'm sure the children were scared. of this torrent of evil and gluttony. He will not stop until everyone in his presence is uncomfortable and slightly sweaty. That being said, he appears at the right door. And because he is a skillless, talentless loser that once again nobody likes, even in school nobody liked Toy Freddy because he was a stupid little piss boy, he pissed himself everywhere. And nobody liked him because of his piss stench that he gave off, and everyone became scared of the little piss bear. They would point and laugh and call him Faz Piss himself, and he would sob all day and all night as he deserved, but no one ever took pity on the stupid fucking plastic piss bear. His belly and brain are filled with piss! All you have to do to get rid of Toy Freddy is to shine your light on him in the hallway for a few seconds and he will leave. Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica are also slightly more active tonight, but nothing special. And after that, I quickly beat Night 2. At this point, I was starting to wonder, is this game really that difficult? I mean, the gameplay is cool, don't get me wrong, but most of the night I was just sitting there. But fear not, Night 3 introduces a new friend, or should I say friendser? But don't worry, they're not the only problems this night, as within 20 seconds, not exaggerating, all 2 of the animatronics had left their positions and started roaming. I say 2 instead of 3 because I don't count the walking waste of parts and resources as a threat nor as someone worth paying attention to. At this point, I'm surprised they hadn't recycled him and turned him into something more useful, like some bottles of water. Henry's usual start of night message goes on to once again reiterate that we have to carefully monitor the cooling fans and make sure they aren't compromised. Henry says that we can seal access to the fans remotely, but doing so will of course drain power. Now, I wonder which FNAF character is known for crawling around the vents. All I know is that it isn't Toy Freddy because I bet he's too stupid to figure out how to get into the vent and he would probably piss himself in the process because he's a stupid piss bear. There I sat, flicking through the cameras, till suddenly I realized, oh, hold on, Mangle's gone. Following which I panicked and frantically swapped cameras until I found her. He was chilling in the hallway and holy shit, can I just say, I think Mangle is my favorite looking by far on the cameras. They look very menacing and I love that. However, his mechanics are a pain in the ass. Mangle will enter the vent through camera 10 before making her way through to vent 11. From there, they will go one of 3 ways at random. If you let Mangle linger in cam 12, 14, or 13 for too long without sealing the vent, then this will happen. I don't even know how this happens. I mean, does he just like shed parts of her endoskeleton? If you let Mangle go and just completely up the fan, that one will be down for the rest of the night, and the building temperature will continue to rise slowly. So basically, you have 3 lives with Mangle. Don't fuck it up. I'll be real, I really like this mechanic. It's so cool. It feels like maybe in the later nights, it could get quite hard to deal with though, because while you're juggling everything else, then Mangle might show up. Okay now, guys, I'm gonna have to come clean with you here. I have played a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's games in my time. I remember being in the 6th grade and bringing my USB stick with Five Nights at Candies on it to the school and playing it in the computer lab. But nothing in my time of playing FNAF could have prepared me for this. This was the most haunting thing I've ever heard, and the implications behind it were enough to make my skin crawl. Fuck. I rushed to check the cameras. Where could he be? And there he stood, in the corner of the camera, just out of sight, taunting me, laughing. He knew what he was doing, the sadistic little fuck. Having only the balloon sign in shot, along with his shit-eating grin. I mean, of course he's here. All of the other animatronics are here, but why? Why is he here? Balloon Boy, aka Beelzebub, first appears on camera 4 once Mangle has entered the vents. This little lovely friend will laugh continuously throughout the night, taunting you, mocking you for being oblivious to his whereabouts. The chills down my spine when I hear, and then I have to look around my room. Is he in the vent? Is he at the door? Where is he? Before checking the left vent to be met with the devil himself. Honestly, all you gotta do is put on the mask and he will zip through at lightning speed. Forget game theory, I need some Twitter power scalers in the comments. Also, side note, I don't think I really talked about this yet, but the models in this game are incredible. Considering DeviantArt used to be plagued with edits of withered toy animatronics back in the day, seeing them like fully modeled is pretty cool. Anyways, besides Mangle and Balloon Boy, the difficulty steps up only slightly, and I will admit I haven't had any problems so far with this game. I mean, it was easy before, Night 3 added some more problems, but nothing too bad, so let's see how Night 4 is, shall we? Henry calls to confirm that his suspicions about the tampering turned out to be true, and that it might be causing them to act erratic. Better late than never, I guess, Henry. He says that he has an idea about what the source may be, however, it's an idea he isn't comfortable with. Thus concludes the Night 4 message. And honestly, there isn't much to say about this night either, my bad guys. While the difficulty did in fact raise a little bit, it still had a lot of me just sitting there or anxiously flipping through the cameras trying to find something to be worried about, other than Mangle, who was really eating my power. But by the time I beat Night 4, I still hadn't died yet, which is funny because usually by this point I would be struggling quite a bit more. I think the problem comes from the fact that other than Mangle, the characters are dealt with really easy. Okay, like Balloon Boy and Toy Bonnie, shine your light in the vent, then put your mask on, and they're gone in a couple seconds. Balloon Boy is gone in less than a second. Toy Chica, just press the button when she flops down in the vent and wait for her to leave. And Toy Waste of Space, you just hold the flashlight on him for a second and he leaves because he's a coward. Of course, I'm no expert, I'm just giving my opinion, but I think this works for FNAF 2 since there are like 11 of them coming at you all at once. But none of these characters, other than Mangle, I love Mangle's mechanic, are an issue until Night 5, when their AI is cranked up a lot and they start actually overlapping with each other, creating the main reason why FNAF 2 is so hard. They all come at you at once, it becomes a chaotic balancing act. But having 5 characters and only one of them being somewhat of a challenge means that the difficulty jump between Night 5 and 6 is all that more apparent, especially Night 6. That was the bane of my existence, you have no idea. But we will get into that later. Honestly, okay, this game is awesome, and a lot of love went into it, and it definitely paid off, but that's just my 2 cents. It's still super well made, I just think the first 4 nights could be a little harder. Speaking of harder, Night 5, hey? The big ol' 5. New character inbound. Night 5 starts with Henry congratulating the player on making it this far, and that we have exceeded all expectations. Following which he basically says he doesn't need us anymore and tells us to get the hell out. I'm kidding. Henry comes to the wise conclusion that there is no point in the continued existence of these characters, that they are beyond salvaging. He goes on to apologize to the player that he couldn't do this sooner, as these characters once meant a lot to him, but it pains him to see them used for such malicious purposes. Henry says that tomorrow morning he's going to come over and personally disassemble them himself. He says that once we finish tonight, we will return for one more shift to ensure that no activity comes from their remains, following which we are not to return. Before Henry even gets out his first sentence, however, all of the animatronics have moved from their original locations, minus Mangle, but she followed behind them soon after. Right off the bat, I noticed the step up in difficulty right away. It was far more tense than the previous nights, and they were coming a lot quicker. Then comes the asshole with tears down her face and rosy red cheeks. As you've probably gathered by now, the next character is the puppet. I was immediately made aware of her presence by this pop-up screen that says find her. The puppet will play an audio cue when she wants to play hide and seek. You have a limited time frame to drop what you're doing and find her right away. She will be hiding on one of the cameras, and to send her away, you have to have an intense staring contest for a bit, and she blinked. I am a huge fan of this mechanic. This is exactly what I think the game was missing. However, I feel like a character like this should have been added earlier though, maybe Night 4. Something where you have to prioritize it, meaning that everyone else can kind of slip past while you're dealing with it, so literally anyone else has a chance to be an actual threat, like the music box in FNAF 2. Although for symbolic/lore reasons, I understand why the puppet was left till Night 5, so fair enough. Also, in my opinion, the pop-up screen I mentioned earlier was a perfect way to introduce this character and what to do. Because of it, I knew how to counter her straight away, and there wasn't any guessing. This screen will only appear once, to my knowledge, as the rest of the times it just plays her sound cue. I imagine if you need to reattempt Night 5, then it'll probably come up again. Mangle and the puppet were easily my biggest problems by far. Mangle actually managed to kill 2 of my vent fans, and the puppet made me come close to dying a few times as I wasn't able to hunt for her while I had my mask on. But even with the new additions, I still beat Night 5 first try. The puppet was a fantastic addition, but I still think it was a bit too easy maybe. Okay, now everything that I've said throughout this video, toss it. Discard it. Other than the stuff about Toy Freddy, I'm glad I put that pisshead on blast. Night 6. The Big 6. Like I've said previously, all Night 6s have a special rule or a special gimmick going on, and this game is no exception. This was by far the coolest night, as well as the most frustrating by a long shot. I beat every night so far without a single death, but this night flipped it on its head, and I died a total of 14 times. So sit back, relax, grab your second bag of popcorn, as we talk about the main attraction. There is no start of night phone call. Henry is finished here. The phone call that ensues is just a garbled mess like the death of Phone Guy in FNAF 1. What's left of the toy animatronics lay scattered on the floor. Even the useless, good-for-nothing, sad excuse of life that is Toy Freddy. Sorry, side tangent here. Imagine you get killed, which would easily be the worst day of your life, and you wake up and you're stuck possessing Toy Freddy. How do you come out of a scenario that involves you getting murdered and have it not be the worst part of your day? Anyways, back to the super creepy night. The animatronics lay on the floor. Henry really did a number on them. Then, what I think is unironically one of the most aura-filled camera shots I think I've ever seen in anything Five Nights at Freddy's. Spring Bonnie and Fredbear. Night 6 is focused entirely around them and only them. I do want to point something out though. I don't know if this is the Springtrap suit. It's clear William isn't inside it yet, and I might be overthinking this, but when William got spring-locked following the events of FNAF 1, he was stuck in the safe room for 30 years. And FNAF 3 is when he gets free and gets taken to Fazbear Frights, which takes place in 2023. It's clear that because of the blood on Fredbear, the bite of 83 had taken place, and the toys got scrapped probably late 1987. We know William hadn't become Springtrap yet due to the fact that he was clearly still active during the events of FNAF 1, which was around 1993. However, the FNAF 1 location is abandoned with the suit already inside it when he gets spring-locked, so it had to have taken place at least a couple years after FNAF 1. I would place this game in the timeline around the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, but it still doesn't explain how the Spring Bonnie suit would have gotten from this abandoned warehouse to the FNAF 1 location. It's not like you can wear it and walk it over, this thing is in pieces. Not to mention, this Spring Bonnie suit has different damage on it compared to Springtrap. Spring Bonnie's existence here means that this can't be the original suit, since at this point in the timeline, it should be sealed away in the safe room with William rotting inside. However, I have absolutely zero doubt that this is the original Fredbear, mostly because of the blood, but it makes sense that if the mascot of your franchise was associated with something like the Bite, then you'd want them either dismantled or shipped off to some kind of Fazbear entertainment storage place. Someone should make a game about that. I don't think I've felt panic like this before when facing off against the final boss type knight in a FNAF game before. Not only are these two of my favorite animatronics, but they move around so quick. And the mechanics are a shitstorm that hits you so fast you never saw it coming. Spring Bonnie made me want to stick my head in a wood chipper, so I'll start with Fredbear. Fredbear will run to a random camera and start attacking it so he can disable it. To prevent this, you must open the FazStat version 1.0.1 and go to the new sub menu, which allows you to administer some controlled shocks. Click on whichever room Fredbear is messing with the camera in and he will stop. The same goes for when he decides to try and shut down the power. The lights will start to flicker and you must find which room he's in and zap the corresponding camera. You will know which room he's in based on this pop-up warning. Now don't worry, this isn't all. Fredbear will also attempt to enter the office from the left side and you cannot see him in the vent. You'll hear a faint whirring noise signifying that Fredbear is about to enter. And you have exactly 3 seconds from the start of the sound cue to drop whatever you're doing and flip up the mask. He looks so cool. None of this was explained whatsoever, and it definitely took some trial and error, but it wasn't too bad. The game actually gives you death screen tips, which I'm a big fan of, so after taking a bunch of deaths, you'll kind of have an idea of what to do. Honestly, Fredbear wasn't too much to handle. He was annoying, sure, but once I got a grasp on how he works, I could deal with him fairly easy. The main problem I had at the start was when he was going after the power. The lights would flicker and he would start laughing, but it also made a metal clanking noise, which I suppose is meant to be him attacking the power. But I thought it was someone coming through the vent, when in reality, he was draining my power. Now, let's move on to the other half of Fredbear's diner. Spring Bonnie took a long time to figure out, and probably 80% of my deaths were to him. Spring Bonnie will attempt to gain access to the office through the overhead air vent, appearing at camera 8 right before he goes in. Why this camera is so important, you ask? Because he's not like Chica. He fucking guns for it. In the air vents. As soon as that camera goes static, you need to close the camera immediately and shut that air vent, because as soon as you hear a scuttering noise, you will have 3 seconds from the start of the sound cue to close it on him. You'll hear him hit the door and then scurry away, following which you can unseal the air vent. I figured this one out fairly quickly, but it becomes a huge nuisance when Fredbear is doing anything. If he's in the office and Spring Bonnie decides to take a run through the vent, then you're basically dead. Spring Bonnie's other mechanic is that he will appear in the office from the right, and much like Fredbear, you don't see him in any doorway or the vent, rather he will just run right in. To counter this, you need to keep the camera up and let him pass through. He'll play audio before he enters that's kind of like Fredbear's but slightly different, and at the start it was very hard to tell the difference between the two. I kept putting up my camera for Fredbear and my mask at Spring Bonnie. This mechanic right here was why this night took a while for me, as I was a little confused. The death screen tip says it saw you, let it pass through. I couldn't figure out if it meant to A, use the mask, B, just look at him and not move, or C, keep the cameras up. And unfortunately I tried C last and it took forever to test this, as I usually die to something else before Spring Bonnie could enter the room. So yeah, all you gotta do is when you hear a sound cue, just keep the cameras up and he will make his way through. It took a while, but I finally ended up beating Night 6, and holy shit, this was so cool. I had the full-on gamer posture while I was playing this night. I was so concentrated, since this whole night is basically being able to tell what the different sounds mean and listening out for them. I only ever used the camera to find Fredbear or to see when Spring Bonnie was about to enter the vent. This was the perfect Night 6 in my opinion. It was difficult, but fair. The characters and the designs are incredible, and the death screen tips saved my ass. I love when games include them. I think the subtlety to them also helps a bit as well, since it wouldn't be fun if you just gave them the full answer. Like Spring Bonnie's let it pass through could mean a couple things, but it points you in the right direction, which I think is awesome. Conclusion time. This game is awesome. I had a lot of fun with it. The game is obviously very well made with a lot of love put into it, and Night 6 is perfect. I wouldn't change a thing about it. Honestly, again, my only note is that the first 4 to 5 nights are very easy. Maybe I just got lucky, but the characters never really overlap. They just come one at a time, and because of it, they are pretty easy to get rid of. Also, quick side note, in the extras menu, it confirms that Spring Bonnie wasn't the suit that became Springtrap. I was right, suck it, I only just noticed this. And there is also a custom night that allows you to play with Spring Bonnie and Fredbear alongside all of the other characters. And not to brag, but I made it to 3 AM on the 820 mode, so yeah, I made it halfway. I'm so cool. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Also, thank you for all the support lately. I really appreciate it. Go check out Fazbear Entertainment Storage and play it through for yourself if you haven't already. Thank you and have a lovely day.